And that's what it's got going for it.
We don't do expensive things, we're radio. But now we are going back to the studio, we are going to interview for Working Class Officer.
Thanks for that, guys. I'm here with Kate Archer and Lucy Mason, both running to be a Working Class and Social Mobility Officer together. But before that, here's more about the role.
Working Class Officer. The Working Class and Social Mobility Officer is a relatively new position at USU, created following a referendum in 2017 to 2018. The officers advocate for and represent the interests of students from lower socio-economic backgrounds on campus, run the Working Class and Social Mobility Network, creating opportunities for working class students.
Fantastic. How are you both feeling?
Nervous. I'm nervous, yeah.
So what sort of experience do you have then for this role?
I've done a lot of work during sixth form. I started their student union and I was deputy head girl and prefect. So I've kind of done a lot of elected roles in the past.
Yeah, we're both on the access and participation panel as well. So we are like fully involved with the people who are making decisions and like we've got faces to names, names to faces, can't remember which way it is. But yeah, so we've got connections in order to implement our policies.
Excellent. So when this role was introduced recently, it was brought up that working class students face a lot of stigma, and it's something you've addressed in your manifesto. But how are you going to work to resolve the stigma that the working class students face?
I think by creating a network where you want to turn up and you can hear voices like yours, it reduces the stigma because you could be sat in halls with people that have no life experience similar to yours. But then if you come to one of our socials, it kind of breaks down those barriers and you know that you can hear people that sound like you, who've got come from the same walk of life as you.
Yeah, we're going to carry on the tradition of having class conferences. It was started by Connor Drake, who kind of started up this network. It was mentioned earlier, I think, so that people really learn about the class divide and the class conflict that happens kind of outside of uni, so that we are really aware of that during our studies and so we can tackle that.
Excellent. You aim to reduce the cost of student living and specifically mention hashtag cut the rent in your manifesto. How are you going to ensure that working class students can afford their rent?
We are going to expand the York bursary because at the moment I know for second and third years it is reduced quite a lot, and obviously rent outside uni is increasing all the time, so that we want to make sure that the bursary actually accommodates for that increase and people aren't left short.
Yeah, it's proved to be a success. On campus, it's come down in prices, but like you say, with inflation rising, landlords are going to put their prices up, do you know, and if there's nobody there to help stop pressure from the university and backing from the union, hopefully it should help to come down.
I'm glad you mentioned the York bursary, because you mentioned in your manifesto that you want to implement an application process for the next 10% who aren't available. Where's that funding going to come from?
Well, we also talked in our manifesto about schemes like UCall, so they contact past alumni, I think that's the right word, past alumni, and, you know, see if they can donate and obviously hopefully build up a fund that then can become like part of the hardship funds and into that bursary. And I think if we talk about it enough, you can pressure the university enough, do you know? You want to be appealing to students from lower income areas, and if you're ever so slightly out of that boundary, you can have the application process and hopefully feel like you're welcome and will have the funds that you need.
I'm glad you mentioned UCall. I actually used to work for UCall for a term, and it was certainly an interesting experience. If you're going to rely on sort of alumni donations and this sort of fundraising activity, how are you going to work to expand access and the participation in services like UCall?
I think not prioritising, but reaching out to people from low-income backgrounds and people who are applicable for the York bursaries, it is, and other scholarships like York Opportunity Awards, so that they're fully aware of all of these opportunities. Because I know a lot of people who I know are working class or low income, they don't know any of these things exist, so we just need to make sure that they're fully aware so they can really take advantage of what's going on.
And finally, you talk about social purpose in your manifesto, but what does that really mean to your role?
Ooh, I just think it makes you want to have a place at university, don't you? And you want to feel like you've got a purpose here, and cohesion would help that. We don't want that stigma anymore, do you know? We want to feel like you are accepted and that you're not different to anybody. So I think having this role and setting up a network that works for everybody, and that hopefully we can reach out to people from different incomes, that it makes you feel like you've got a purpose and a need to be here almost.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Kate and Lucy running for Working Class and Social Mobility Officer.
Thank you, Harry, and